I hope you understand that this is an assembly for you. And probably one of the more serious ones we've ever had. We've had our fun ones. We've had soldiers come in. But today someone's going to share a story with you. And she's doing this, she's not getting paid one dime, not 1 cent. And you're going to hear about the most unnatural thing in the world today. And that is simply this. If you see someone come into the world, you shouldn't see them go out. Let me say that again. If you see someone come into the world, you shouldn't see them go out. As this came about, Mr. Bloomfield knew this student named Ryan. He passed away. There was an article about it in the paper. He then reached out to the mother, Mrs. Johnson, who is our speaker today, and said, would you mind coming and talking to the students at Northwood? She said, please let me. And that's why she's here. Before we turn it over to her, I have asked Chief Whiteley to come because he's going to make this real for you. You think drug problems happen to other people. They don't. And yesterday when myself, Mrs. Gatt, Mr. Bloomfield, Mrs. Banjoff met with Mrs. Johnson, she said, I'm here to help people. So, round of applause for Chief Whiteley.
Good afternoon. As Mr. Brzezinski said, we're here about a different kind of topic. Normally when I'm in this room, we're doing a safety town graduation. How many of you went to safety town? Right? Very uplifting. You did a lot of work and learned a lot. We're talking about something that is extremely important, and I hope you learn a lot because this will affect you, your classmates, your families, as life goes on. And if you listen to this and you learn from it, it'll benefit you. If you don't, it's going to hurt you. As a police officer, we see on a daily basis the effects of drugs and alcohol on society and what happens. I was sharing with Mr. Brzezinski before we came here that there's statistics out there, and you don't understand statistics, it's percentages of what happens. But years ago, they said about 80% of all crime is somehow related to drugs. And I'm going to tell you that's low. It's closer to 90%. Which means the people who are in prison, most likely they're in prison for something they did that somehow or another involved some type of drug. The people that they're in prison for, meaning the people they hurt, they're hurt because somebody, one way or another, was affected by drugs. 90% is an awful high percentage. So you need to listen closely to what's said today because if I'm not mistaken, wasn't Ryan a Northwood student? He was in your seat. He was in this school. He's no different than you guys. Drugs do not know status. They do not know age. They don't know gender. They don't know race. They don't know your ethnicity. They don't know any of that. What they know is the human body. They take it over, and it's done. There's no playing around. There's no, I'm going to try this, and everything will be okay, because if you try it, you're done. So you need to learn. You need to listen. We are all here. If you need anything, any questions, we'll help you where we can help you. But this really is going to come down to you and the decisions you make in life. So listen closely to Mrs. Johnson.
I don't know how to introduce you because I think through your talk you're going to introduce yourself. Round of applause for the
Hello, thank you for being here today. Thank you, Mr. Bloomfield and Mr. Basinski, for inviting me. Before I really get started, I am asking you to please look at me. Don't look at your neighbors. Out of respect, I would appreciate no chatter because this is very, very hard for me. This is not me talking about somebody I didn't know. This is me talking about my son that I brought into this world and had to watch him leave. There's no happy ending, and there's no winner. And if you think for 1 minute that it could not be you, you are wrong. You're very wrong. I'm ready. Okay. This was my son Ryan shortly before he passed. He was a very handsome young man. He passed at the age of 24 years young. And as I wrote in his obituary, he died of the disease of addiction. Not everybody believes it's a disease. People believe it's a choice. And they're kind of right. It is a choice when you first use. However, if you were born with the chemical makeup of forming an addiction, you don't know that until you try drugs. That is the scariest part. It only takes one time to use any form of drug. And one time, it could make you become an addict, or it could take your life. If you know, people, they talk about, their parents take pain medicines, or there's a friend who their parents take the pain medicines, and it'll just be fun. It'll be really cool to try that. Well, that's how Ryan started. Ryan started by, he changed. He changed his whole personality. He was depressed. He was a typical kid who was on the honor roll all through school until he reached between 6th and 7th grade. He started changing a bit. He was the happiest little boy. There he is with chickenpox. And he was funny, and he was smart, and just a joy to be around, and wonderful to be his mom. He has one sister named Brittany. That's his cousin Emily, and they are the same age and had a blast together growing up. This affects every single person that is touched by you. When you feel like nobody's listening, or you feel that you don't have anybody to talk to, or you're just not feeling right, you have to reach out for help. there are people who will listen. If you feel you can't talk to your parents or your grandparents or aunts, uncles, cousins, your teachers, find somebody that you can talk to and trust. Because you're not alone. You're going through all the changes that every other person is going through. And I really know that that is how Ryan started this journey, was he became depressed. He became unsure of himself as a teenager, as a student. And so he started going and hanging around other kids that had older siblings. Those older siblings would have parties and they would start drinking and they would start smoking weed, and Ryan joined in. And because Ryan didn't feel so-called normal like himself, his addictive personality started right away. So when people ask me, do I think that marijuana should be legalized, I tell them absolutely no, because I know from a fact that that is how my son became a heroin addict. Something that he had told me himself he would never, ever, ever try. Never do. Mom, I promise you I would never do something like that. But once drugs take over you, you're not you anymore. Ryan was not Ryan when he passed. He was a different person. There's Mr. Jama's son with Ryan. He was, he had turned to where he had started to become such a bad addict that he would steal from us. He would steal money, he would steal my jewelry, he would steal anything he could get his hands on so he could go and exchange it for drugs. And when I talk about that, I don't mean when he was 24. I mean when he was 14, when he was 15. When he was 15, we were at a loss. We had no idea who this person had become. He was an absolute stranger in our home. We finally searched and searched because there's not many drug rehabilitation centers out there for children. Because you know what? When you're a child, that's what you should be doing. You should be a child. You should be having fun. But it was too late for him. He was addicted. So we called all these places. I would sit with the phone book. I don't even know if you guys even know what a phone book is with the internet now. But I would sit with a phone book at night and I would look up places and make phone calls all night begging for help. And as soon as I would say, my son is 15, they would then tell me, I'm so sorry. We don't take underage children. He has to be at least 18. So my son that had been an honor roll student, he had been in sports since t-ball. His father had coached him all along the way. I had been team mom and loved every minute of it. He was funny, he was full of life and joy. He had become this stranger, this dark, cold stranger. So I made an arrangement. I got him into this place called New Directions. It's about an hour or so away from where we lived in Elyria. And he was 15 and a half because it was April 29th, and I'll never forget that. He should have been going to get his temporary license. He should have been enjoying his life. And I told him that as we walked to the door. And I just will never forget the look on his face and some of the cold things he said to me, because that wasn't, like I said, that wasn't Ryan. He had become somebody different. Perfect timing. He became a stranger to us. So he was very defiant. He didn't want help. The drugs meant more to him than it meant for his own life, for our relationship, for his friends, his sister, his father, his cousin Emily that he used to love to hang out with, everybody. It didn't matter. He was done. So, we're talking, Ryan started using anything he could get his hands on. I'm talking pills in somebody's medicine cabinet that he doesn't even know what it is. Over-the-counter medicine, he would learn how to abuse that. Alcohol, marijuana, everything. And this is from 13 till the day I walked him in at 15 and a half. That's some of your ages right there. So he stayed in there. He was out of our house for probably 3 months at that time, trying and being defiant as could be. He did not want help. He just wanted to be left alone. We then had to take him to a mental health facility, and he was there for 6 months, away from his friends, in a locked mental health facility because we wanted to save his life. Our home had become very lonely. It wasn't what it used to be. Life as we knew it was gone. And I know there's so many campaigns and say no to drugs and all these little catchy phrases, and I'm not here to tell you that. I'm telling you what we lived through. We watched our son be your age, have fun, have family. We did birthday parties every year, Christmases, every holiday, a typical family, and he had become that. That's his girlfriend, Jessica, who's here today. And that is Ryan's little boy, Dorian. They don't have Ryan here now. Because he used one time, it took his life. Ryan knew he was going to be a daddy, but he was so sick with addiction. He couldn't stop. He couldn't change. And so on July 2nd, 2013, he passed. My mother, his grandmother, found him deceased in his bed, all alone. With one mark, one needle mark, took this handsome young man away from us all. When you ask Dorian, who is now just shy of 2.5, where's your daddy? He points to this picture. He does not know what a daddy is. He sees that urn that holds his daddy's ashes. And he sees his picture, and we light a candle all the time for peace and serenity of 10 years out of Ryan's 24 years he spent struggling with addiction. Constant in and out of hospitals, in and out of rehabs. All because he felt it would be okay to try alcohol, marijuana. It won't affect me. But it does affect you. And the thing is that you don't know. None of us in here know if we have the genes that make up the addiction in our minds, in our bodies. So my message to you is if you don't ever try it, you will never have to know. You won't have to have your mom standing in front of students crying and so hurt because I don't have my only son. Dorian doesn't have a daddy. Grandparents and parents should not outlive our children. And this is everywhere, everywhere. We grew up in this neighborhood. Ryan lived here. He went to this school. So did me, so did myself, my husband, my daughter. We all went to this school. And it doesn't have to be this way. And I will guarantee right now, every single one of you already knows somebody who has been affected by addiction. And alcoholism is addiction. There's no difference. Yeah, you can go buy it at the store. Does that make it okay? No, it does not make it okay. There's a reason there's an age limit. My goal today is to help you in any way, and I'm so sorry if you do have an addict in your life. I'm so sorry if you've been touched by it in any way, and I'm incredibly sorry if it's you yourself that feels this way and feels you need to try to use something for whatever reason. But you don't. You are valuable. You need to enjoy your childhood. You need to grow up and become something. You know, I see Ryan's friends that have become professionals in different categories, and I'm a realtor. I've helped some of them buy homes. And it's so bittersweet because I'm so proud of them. But yet I'll never get to do that with my own child. I look at that box of his ashes every night, and I talk to this picture every night, and I tell him good night. That's not how it should be. If there's anything that you take away from this, please know that I don't even know you, but I do know you. When I look out here, whether you're boy or girl, I see my child. And I have such great hope for you all. And everything will get better. I know it's so hard being a teenager. Everything will get better. Just please reach out for help. And thank you very much for having me.